and welcome to the next episode of The Locker Room. Ooh, boy, it's been some stuff going on in sports this week, and I'm ready to talk about a lot of it. We're going to talk about Kevin Stefanski being fired as head coach of the Cleveland Browns. All right. Was keeping Andrew Berry a smart move for the Cleveland Browns? We're going to talk a little bit about who the next coach might be. And we're going to get into, could that next coach be John Harbaugh? Then we're going to roll over to the college football playoffs and Miami versus Ole Miss. Indiana put B to A to Oregon. And now we got Indiana and Miami for the national championship. My thoughts on that. The Cavaliers, still up and down. But is Garland, Mobley, Allen, and Donovan Mitchell an all-star this year? We'll talk about it. Should the Cavs make a trade? And I got something that I want you to think about that I thought about this week that I'm going to explore. And that is, should the Cavaliers trade Evan Mobley? Inquiring minds would like to know. And then finally, my coach's rant. I know it's people waiting on this, and so I'm going to do this today. And we're going to talk about the Trae Young trade. And I'm just going to leave it at that right now. So, hey, get your favorite beverage, sit back, put your seatbelt on, and let's get into The Locker Room. The Locker Room is sponsored by Becoming a Better You with Coach Young. Listen, y'all, I just don't do sports. I do a lot of other stuff, okay? And Becoming a Better You is a segment that I do on TikTok. And we talk about just becoming a better person in 2026. So listen, you can go to TikTok and on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for Becoming a Better You. All right. I look forward to seeing y'all then. Okay. Come on now. Let's go ahead and get into this. All right. First things first, if you have not subscribed to The Locker Room, I don't know what you're waiting on. I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know what's happening, but I need you to subscribe to The Locker Room. You can go to YouTube and you can type in The Locker Room .34 and you'll see this emblem and this face. And listen, all I do is I talk about Cleveland sports. I'm a Cleveland boy. I'm Cleveland bred. I'm going to be one till I am Cleveland gone, 189th Street strong. And Harvard Avenue. That's who I am. But I love my Cleveland sports. I love talking Cleveland sports. So listen, if you have not subscribed to The Locker Room, go ahead now or wait till after the show is over and go ahead and go over to YouTube and hit The Locker Room .34 and go ahead and subscribe. I am also a proud member of 3 The Hard Way, our sports podcast, just 3 guys talking about Cleveland sports as well. That is me, my man L Train, and the captain, Terrence Alston. Shout out to my boys. And we sit up and we talk about Cleveland sports all day, every day. All right. And so if you have not subscribed to that, then I want you to go to 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast. And you can type in and you can get in there and you can like, comment, and subscribe. All right. All right, let's get into this. So this week, Kevin Stefanski was relieved of his duties as coach of the Cleveland Browns. Can I say that I am surprised? Absolutely not. Not surprised, all right? Had a horrible record in the last couple years. I'm not trying to hear about the 2-time coach of the year. I've been listening to all the talking heads locally. I've been listening to all the talking heads nationally. Now it's time for me to give my take. Kevin Stefanski was absolutely awful. He was terrible in the last couple of years in terms of getting this team in a winning way. And I heard Mary Kay Cabot make a statement that she wished he would have just had a more stable quarterback. Well, see, once again, here's where the Cleveland media misses the point. He did have a stable quarterback, and he didn't do anything with him. And by the way, he's in Tampa Bay doing pretty decently. He's struggling a little bit right now, but he's doing pretty decently, all right? And his name is Baker Mayfield. Now, I'm not a Baker bro, and I'm not going to sit up here and say I'm a Baker bro, all right? But you can't sit there and try to bail him out saying that he did not have quality at quarterback. When he came from Minnesota, he was supposed to be this quarterback guru. okay, because he had Kirk Cousins. He came over to Cleveland. He took Baker Mayfield. And listen, I understand that the organization went after Deshaun Watson. But in the time that he had Baker Mayfield, did he really develop it? Now, Baker Mayfield, to him, yeah, he was a bit immature when Stefanski got him, but that's what coaching is for. Coaching is developing, okay? And so we can go down the line of quarterbacks, okay? They weren't garbage, all right? A couple of them were, okay? I'm not going to even lie. There was, there was a couple that were. But let's talk about, like I said, Baker Mayfield, all right? Let's talk about some of the quarterbacks that he has had. Okay. Deshaun Watson did not work out. Well, I'm not gonna blame totally Deshaun Watson on that. Deshaun Watson didn't work out because the system that Kevin Stefanski had was not geared to his abilities. They weren't geared to his abilities at all. Okay. Jacoby Brissett was serviceable, but that offense was not geared around his ability. All right. Dillon Gabriel, he selected Dillon Gabriel, and that offense was not based around what Dillon Gabriel does. If you go back and look and see what he did in Oregon, and then you look and see the offense that Kevin Stefanski was running, he didn't do anything to base his offense around somebody who he picked. He just didn't. And the bottom line is, I really don't want to hear, okay, when it comes to Kevin Stefanski, that he was put in a bad position. He wasn't. Okay? He wasn't. Listen, organizationally from top up, they weren't very good. But the product on the field, okay, he had good players. He lost that locker room, especially this year. He lost that locker room. That quarterback duel and that quarterback, we're going to have a quarterback competition. That wasn't a competition. I mean, stop lying to the people. Now, to Kevin Stefanski's defense, I think he fell on the sword for other people as well. I think a lot of the decisions that were made were not his. And I think at the end of the day, he became the scapegoat. He became the one that was used, and was tossed out. Okay. But when you want to go about what Stefanski did as a head coach, and we're going to get into Andrew Berry in a moment. He didn't prove he didn't have the right product. He didn't put the right product on the field. It was him. As a head coach, you take the fall for everybody else. That's why, as a head coach, you have to establish your dominance within the organization. I believe, honestly, and I say this, I believe Kevin Stefanski should have left a year ago, because I truly believe to a certain extent that there were things that Kevin Stefanski was dictated to do that he did not want to do. But that's his fault for not standing 10 toes down and letting the ownership know that I'm not doing this. Okay? Don't get me wrong, this the one last time that I will use this. Yes, he's a two-time coach of the year. That brings it should bring a little bit of clout and a little bit of status inside the organization. So if there's things that were going on that he didn't like, then he should have stood 10 toes down on it. And if the organization forced him to do it, Kevin Stefanski could have easily walked away. He chose not to. So at the end of the day, that falls upon him. All right, now, there are other teams that may be interested in Stefanski's services. I heard about the New York Giants. I heard about the Jets, the Titans, the Raiders. So there are different ball clubs that are interested in Kevin Stefanski. All right. Do I think Kevin Stefanski will be a head coach in the league this next football season? No. I think it'd be best for Kevin to take a year off or become an offensive coordinator, go to wherever he's going to go. This is just my opinion. And become an offensive coordinator and then get himself back in the mix in 2027. Okay. He could go to the Giants. He does have, Jackson Dart is there. The Raiders are a dumpster fire. Shout out to my brother Tim Stevens. They are a dumpster fire, but they're in position to get Fernando Mendoza. We'll talk about him in a little bit later in the show. And so he has his pick, So I think if Kevin Stefanski goes back to being an offensive coordinator, I think it would be a good move for him. I think he needs to take a year off in terms of being a head coach because coaching jobs are going to come. Okay. Is he going to interview for some coaching jobs? I believe he will. But there are other coaches out here. Speaking of that, we talk about who's the next coach of the Cleveland Browns. So Tommy Rees was interviewed and Jim Schwartz were interviewed this week. There are other interviews that are taking place. I know Mike McDaniels was released of his duties in Miami, and he's been in the mix. Listen, y'all, don't sit here and try to predict who the next coach is, because the Browns have shown that they have been an organization that has continually missed the mark in terms of grabbing a good head coach. Okay, we're talking Freddie Kitchens. Okay, and in that ilk, that's what we're talking about. And so, we want to make sure that we get the kind of coach that we need for this organization. All right, and one of those coaches that came up was John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh was fired from Baltimore. And of course, John Harbaugh shoots to the top of everybody's list. Now, here is where the one time that I will agree with Jason Lloyd of The Athletic and of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Did I say Jim Harbaugh? I get the Harbaughs mixed up. I mean John Harbaugh. I'm sorry. John Harbaugh is not going to the Cleveland Browns, and here's why. First of all, John Harbaugh is going to have control. Jimmy Haslam is not going to give him that. Andrew Berry is not going to give him that. Number two, Jim Harbaugh, through rumor mill, was said that he was released, one, because he would not fire Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator. Todd Monken, who's also being interviewed by the Browns. And there was something that was said, Mary Kay Cabot said, there's a possibility that they're interviewing Todd Monken to try to lure John Harbaugh in. John Harbaugh is not coming to the Cleveland Browns. John Harbaugh has afforded himself the opportunity to sit and wait. So he's not going to just jump into the Cleveland Browns dysfunction. He's just not going to do that. Okay. So I don't really see John Harbaugh being a coach of the Cleveland Browns. Like I said, it's a hodgepodge of coaches out here. Who do I want? Who's my candidates? My leading candidate is, I love Brian Flores, but here's the thing with Brian Flores. Brian Flores runs a 3-4 defense. Myles Garrett is not going to move inside in a 3-4. You're going to take away what Myles Garrett does, and you're not going to be dumb enough to make him into a linebacker. That would be stupid. Okay, so if you're going to hire a defensive coordinator, you're going to hire the DC that runs a 4-3, because that leaves Myles Garrett on that island that he has been so successful with. But an offensive guy that I want to see come in would be Byron Leftwich. A lot of folks don't talk about Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich, I think, would be an absolute steal to become head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Why? He can develop the quarterback room with the way it is right now. Byron Leftwich, former NFL quarterback, quarterback at Marshall in college, just a brilliant brain when it comes to offensive football. And so I think that Byron Leftwich should be considered. Then, of course, you have Eric Bieniemy, who was once the OC for the Kansas City Chiefs, that are out here. But Bieniemy comes with a little bit of baggage. I heard that, he really didn't get along with his players. Rumor, innuendo. But I really like Byron Leftwich. I like Brian Flores, but I really love Jim Schwartz. Okay. And I if I were to cast a vote, if it wasn't Leftwich, then it would be Jim Schwartz. Well, why? Get this, y'all. Jim Schwartz in a 5-win team had the top ranked, or one of the top ranked defenses in the NFL. You can't let that man walk out of the room. And I heard people talk about, well, we can't let Tommy Rees walk out of the room. Yeah, you can. You can let Tommy Rees walk out the room. I understand that he's been heralded by Nick Saban and all of that, but you can let Tommy Rees walk out the room, because you can find a very good offensive coordinator out here in the NFL today. There's a lot of them. And I know Tommy Rees is very high, but is Tommy Rees ready to run an NFL football team with the experience that he has? I don't believe so. Okay. Jim Schwartz has been proven. And I understand everybody gonna come in my comments, and DM me talking about, well, he was in Detroit in the 0-16 season. Understand the context of that 0-16 year. He had nothing but Megatron and Stafford. That was it. There was nothing else around him. And that was five plus years ago. So now you got a DC who's older, who's wiser, who's learned. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm giving him a shot if I can't land Leftwich. If I can't land Byron Leftwich as a head coach or OC, then I'm going to go with Jim Schwartz. Because all these other ones, they going through certain channels and things of that nature. There's one coach that they have that's really, he coached at, I believe, at Green Bay, but now he really hasn't really coached in the NFL like that. So I want somebody that's proven, that's going to bring some discipline to this football team, that's going to, take the quarterback room, whether it's Shedeur, whether, it's Dylan Gabriel, whether it's Deshaun Watson, whatever it may be, and make that quarterback into a winning quarterback. Okay. All right. Moving on. Andrew Berry, after Stefanski was let go, Andrew Berry remained as the general manager. And this sent the Cleveland fan base into an absolute uproar. And I'm going to break this thing down like a fraction. But first, let me take a break. And let me talk about Three the Hard Way. Listen, Three the Hard Way is a sports podcast with myself, my man Lionel Jones, and Terrence Austin, the captain. And what we do on Sundays, and we record on Sundays, but it comes on Mondays on YouTube, is we talk about Cleveland sports. Some of these subjects we're going to talk about then. But if you have not subscribed, if you have not followed Three the Hard Way Sports Podcast, I am absolutely double dog daring you to go to YouTube, to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, okay? Because when I'm on there, even on here, my motto is, you may not like what I'm saying, but you will listen, all right? So please come join us, all right? Like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. That is Three the Hard Way Sports Podcast on YouTube. All right. So Andrew Berry being kept, I've heard so many people, just upset and angry, then said, well, if you're going to fire the head coach, then you need to fire the general manager. For the general manager, he's the one that's supposed to build the organization, and he didn't hit on this and he didn't hit on that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let me hip y'all up to something. I've been saying this for weeks, and people don't seem to, want to listen, even though you will listen. As I said with Andrew Berry, it is what have you done for me lately? Andrew Berry hit a home run in this year's draft. Well, last year's draft. He hit a home run with it. And regardless of what all the other pundits have said, Andrew Berry hit a home run with the drafting that he did, and also with some key pickups that he had. All right. And so let me take you here. This is Jimmy Haslam talking about why he kept Andrew Berry on as general manager.
Because I think it's important to talk about the moves he made to strengthen our team, okay? I think it began with what I would call a very efficient free agency. We added one player, and that player made a substantial difference in our football team, and that was Malik.
Now, he said he had one player in free agency. This is why he kept Andrew Berry. Listen now.
Collins. Malik is not only a really good player, he's a really good person who was a leader on our defense, a leader in the defensive line room.
You won 5
Andrew
games.
Negotiated a trade a week or two before the draft started, in which we added 3 draft picks, 2 last year, a second and a fourth or a fifth, and a first this year, okay? Then I think we had one of the better drafts that we've ever had. I think we added 4 really good football players who were either first team all rookie or second team all rookie. And I think Carson has a really good chance to be the NFL Rookie of the Year, defensive Rookie of the Year. I think what's important to understand about our rookies, though, and you all see them, you all know them, they're not only really good players, they're really good people.
So, with all that being said, you won 5 games this year. You won 2 games last year. Did Jimmy Haslam have all the right to fire Andrew Berry? He did. But as I said over the previous weeks, I'm Janet Jackson, and he now agrees. What have you done for me lately? He hit a home run, possible home run, on this draft. Okay? Malik Collins had 6 sacks as a defensive tackle before he got injured and was out for the rest of the season. He was on pace to get double-digit sacks as a defensive tackle, which I've said before is very, very difficult. More difficult than what Myles Garrett did, okay, from a defensive tackle standpoint. Carson Schlesinger is going to be the defensive rookie of the year. There's no doubt about that. Mason Graham is going to be a stud. Despite what everyone else is talking about, that he did not have a good season, Mason Graham is going to be a stud at that defensive tackle. If you have a healthy Malik Collins next year with Graham, you're going to have one heck of a defensive tackle room, okay, along with Mike Hall, okay, and Huntington, I'm sorry. And so it's what have you done for me lately? Because if you look at Andrew Berry's work in its totality, Andrew Berry should have been fired with Kevin Stefanski. But because he hit this possible home run with this draft class and, his trading of Greg Newsome for our corner, that was a great trade. And then you have him under contract next year. Him being able to maneuver the salary cap the way he has, even with the Deshaun Watson debacle. Andrew Berry worked his tail off behind the scenes to keep his job. Now, the question is, do you have confidence in Andrew Berry doing it 2 years in a row? I'm very skeptical, people, because when you look at what he did in this draft, he didn't draft one wide receiver. He went and got Isaiah Bond. Give him that. I think Isaiah Bond is going to be a very serviceable wide receiver. Having a conversation with my brother the other day, he believes Cedric Tillman is going to end up being a quality receiver if he has quality coaching. The jury's out for me on Cedric Tillman. The jury's out for me on Jerry Jeudy. Okay, because one moment I'm like trading, and the next moment I'm like, man, he could be a good slot receiver. The mindset is still, we need wide receivers. Can Andrew Berry bring in a Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson? Can he do that? Or can he find a couple wide receivers in the draft that can be steals? Okay. Yes, he hit a possible home run on this draft class. Because, you look at Quinshon Judkins. Okay. You look at when he comes back, what he's going to do. He's going to be an absolute stud in the backfield. You look at Carson Schlesinger. Okay. You look at that draft class, and you can honestly say that he did a really good job with this draft class. He did a really good job creating a new nucleus. Because if you remember years ago, the old nucleus was Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett. That was the old nucleus. Now, you still got Myles around. Okay, Nick Chubb is gone. Baker Mayfield is gone. Hollywood Higgins, those guys, they're gone. Okay, so now you have to build a new nucleus. And I said this earlier in some other broadcasts that the Browns are doing a soft rebuild. It's not a tear everything down, because the defense is good. Okay, the offense just need tweaking. I believe David Njoku is gone because Harold Fannin is going to be that dude. You got yourself a perennial Pro Bowl tight end. He should have rightfully, he went in, he's a reserve in the Pro Bowl. He should be in the Pro Bowl. Period. Okay. There's some good pieces around that Andrew Berry has gotten for the Browns. But do you trust that he is going to bring in the next wave? I don't put this quarterback try out and this bringing in 4 quarterbacks, this competition. I don't totally throw that on Kevin Stefanski. Andrew Berry's the GM. Andrew Berry's the one that brought in Kenny Pickett. Andrew Berry is the one that brought in Joe Flacco. Andrew Berry is the one that drafted Dillon Gabriel. He's also brought in Shedeur Sanders. I don't care what anybody says, regardless of whether, Jimmy made that pick or not. You're the GM. There's some say. And I won't get into it right now, but the fact that you drafted Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders, that's a head scratcher right then and there. So for those that believe Andrew Berry should have been fired, I can see why. For those that believe Andrew Berry should stay around, I understand that as well. But to me, this upcoming draft, if people thought that he needed to hit a home run last draft, he definitely needs to hit one this draft. And while everybody's talking about quarterback, right now, because the Browns won the last 2 games, that was Kevin Stefanski's going away present, is that you're not getting the number 1 draft pick. You think you're going to fire me and then get the number 1 draft pick? Yeah, okay, here we go. So right now, the draft is where the Browns are drafting no lower than 7th. Okay. So Dante Moore is out, even though watching him last night versus Indiana, I don't want Dante Moore anyway. Same offense. He just looks like a bigger version of Dylan Gabriel. No disrespect to the young man, but I'm not enamored with Oregon quarterbacks. Sorry. Fernando Mendoza and he won the game. I mean, they put boots to behind against Oregon. He threw for 177 yards. He was 17 of 20. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the CFP. He threw for 5 touchdowns. And I'm sure everybody's running around. Oh, Fernando Mendoza. Let's put things into context. Fernando Mendoza is going to be a good quarterback. Is Fernando Mendoza going to be a franchise quarterback? Well, franchise is going to draft him. Is he going to be that dude? I'll wait to see. I'm not going to cast any doubts on the young man. I don't do that. He hasn't gotten to the NFL yet. But in terms of the Browns are out of that sweepstakes. And I'm going to be honest with you. Good. Because when you break it down like this, if you go and you draft a rookie quarterback, you're going to have to wait another 2 years for him to develop. And is he coming in as a rookie going to be a top 5 quarterback when he comes into whatever organization he comes into? When you look at the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, can Fernando Mendoza be placed in that top 5 somewhere? No, he can't. Okay. And I know though the Shedeur haters, well, Shedeur is not in that. No, he's not. Neither is Deshaun Watson, neither is Dylan Gabriel. But is there potential? They all have potential. I believe if you get the right offensive coordinator, you get the right quarterbacks coach coming in, I believe you can take that quarterback room and turn that quarterback room into a very good quarterback room. I believe with Deshaun Watson, a lot of it was just his mentality. I believe he was just so jacked up with all these allegations and things off the field. He wasn't ready to be a quarterback. Okay. Welcome in. Appreciate you. So what I look at right now is you got problems at wide receiver. You have problems on your offensive line. You have to replace your offensive linemen. You got to replace 5 linemen. 5. Okay. So with the draft capital that you have, Andrew Berry is going to be cunning enough. He's going to get the wide receivers, even though I don't trust his mindset when it comes to drafting wide receivers. I just don't. Okay. And offensive lineman is even worse. Now, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Andrew Berry's not going anywhere, y'all. So instead of complaining about it, let's see what he does. But I truly believe that this is the last time that you will see Andrew Berry if this draft doesn't come out well. I don't think you'll see Andrew Berry anymore. Okay. But Jimmy Haslam had to get rid of Kevin Stefanski. Because Kevin Stefanski not only did not win games, I think he lost the locker room, but his press conferences, I think, also attributed to him being fired as well. Because all he said was the same thing. We as a coaching staff have to get better. We got, we have to execute better. He said it every week. And I also think what got him, helped him out the door was the fact that he didn't get rid of Bubba Ventrone. Bubba Ventrone was terrible as special teams coach, and you didn't get rid of him. So there's your problem. There's your problem right there, is you didn't get rid of Bubba Ventrone. I'm not saying that would have saved his job, but at least would have waved off a stay of execution. All right. All right, so there's the Browns. I do believe at the end of the day that the Browns are going to choose someone that we haven't even talked about. They will get a head coach, somebody that we haven't talked about. So all these candidates that you see, because I think at the end of the day, the Browns want a young, vibrant kind of coach that they can control. Did you hear what I said? That they can control, because that's all it's about in Berea. It's about control. Who can control who? Okay. So, all right, let's get into the CFP, y'all. College football playoff. I had an opportunity. I sat back and I watched Indiana just absolutely decimate Oregon. I mean, they put belt to behind against Oregon. Like I said, Fernando Mendoza was 17-20 for 177 yards and 5 touchdowns. Okay. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I actually walked away from the game when it was like 24-7. And I came back, and it was 52-14, something like that. It was crazy. Okay. I did not believe that Indiana was that good. Their defense is off the chain. Their defense is really, really good. Kirk Cignetti has done a fabulous job in building this team, putting this team together. And and of course, Miami beat Ole Miss. That was more of a closer game. Ole Miss was a good football team. The problem with Ole Miss is their offensive line could not block Miami's defensive line. That was it. That was the trenches. It was in the trenches. In Miami, it has a good defensive line. So I am very, very excited to see Indiana versus Miami. And could somebody please beat Miami? The only reason I'm saying this, I'm a Big Ten guy, so I'm riding with Indiana, but I'm so sick and tired of seeing Michael Irvin. I'm so sick and absolutely tired of seeing Michael Irvin. Okay? I get it. It's your alma mater. I get it. But brother, you are 60 years old. And you about to have an aneurysm out there, dude. Calm down. Please, playmaker, calm down. Could somebody please take Miami out of their misery? Please, Indiana. I'm just joking, but I'm serious. No, it's going to be a really good game because, like I said, Miami's defense is really underrated, but so is Indiana's defense. And so it'll be good. It'll be good to watch this quarterback matchup. I think they're two good quality quarterbacks, receiving core. It's going to get down to mistakes. Who's going to make the first mistake? Is it going to be Indiana or is it going to be in Miami? Who's going to make that crucial error, that fumble or that pick? Who's going to make that? All right. Shout out to Ole Miss. Like I said, I was very impressed. I call Ole Miss being the Cinderella, and I think that they were. I just think turnovers kind of hurt them. The fact that they could not really effectively run the football, I think what caused Ole Miss to lose that game. But shout out to Miami. Miami was there. Miami was there. And so I'm really looking forward to Indiana and Miami. All right. Let me get to a chat here. Let's see. Brian. Let's see here. Brian says, I agree. Tired of seeing Irvin. B-Mo, I'm telling you, man, that Michael Irvin, I think he gonna keel over there on the sideline, dude. I mean, so we're going to see if he got that same type of energy against Indiana. Okay, we're going to see if he got that same type of energy. All right. All right, real quick, listen, if you are not a subscriber to The Locker Room, I don't know what y'all waiting on. I need y'all to go to YouTube right now and you type in The Locker Room with Coach Young, or you can go to thelockerroom.34 and you could type that in, and I'm telling you, you're going to get me, myself, and I. All right. And what I do is, yes, I talk about Cleveland sports. And like I said, I'm a Harvard-born kid, man. Love my Cleveland sports, love Cleveland. And that's all I talk about. So, and if you want to, chime in about Cleveland sports, man, if you are a Clevelander, if you out here across the country and still a Clevelander, you know what I mean? I've been a transplant here in Arizona for over 25 years, but I still got Cleveland in my heart. Gonna always have that in my heart. So if you are not a subscriber to The Locker Room, please go to YouTube, go to thelockerroom.34 and like, subscribe, comment, share. Because listen, whether it's positive or negative, like I've always said, you may not like what I'm saying, but you will listen. All right. So go ahead and get that on there right now. Go get it. All right. Let's talk a little Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I need y'all to listen closely with this because I'm about to send some stuff to y'all. All right. I want y'all to understand when I talk about the Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I think the last game I just watched, they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're actually right now, as I speak, they are playing the Timberwolves right now. Let me check and see. They lost to the Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards and those guys last couple of days ago. Right now, it is in the second quarter, and it is 33-33. Okay, but they lost to Minnesota the other night, and it was really frustrating how they lost the game. They lost the game in the third quarter. They were punching with them, and then they came on the third quarter. Now, I have been very critical of the Cleveland Cavaliers in terms of play, in terms of Evan Mobley, in terms of Jared Allen, in terms of Darius Garland, in terms of all of that. But that loss against Minnesota was a Kenny Atkinson loss. And the reason I say it was a Kenny Atkinson loss is because of the personnel that he put out there. Okay. There were times I watched Anthony Edwards being guarded by Darius Garland. Darius Garland is not a defender. I don't care how much Kenny Atkinson's talk about he's improved. He's a smaller guard. And I got a topic that'll come up next time. I don't have time to talk about it today, but I'm going to talk about it next time is the small guard being phased out of the NBA? All right. But it was a personnel thing. Craig Porter Jr. came off the bench and was doing a fabulous job. Naquan Tomlin, once again, fabulous job. Jalen Tyson was sick, so he came in some minutes, spurred minutes, but he was under the weather. But there was some defensive matchups that I had a problem with, okay? And continuing to watch Evan Mobley be bullied, all right? I know people probably think that I'm an Evan Mobley hater. I'm not. But I'm not going to pump Evan Mobley up as if he's the second coming because he isn't. And I think now more than ever, Evan Mobley has been proven, okay, to not be an offensive weapon. And I say this like the kids said, Evan Mobley don't have a bag. And when it comes to being on the post, he don't have a bag, okay, period. He don't have post moves, okay? Not post moves that you're going to worry about defending, okay? You think I'm the only one that think that? Here we go. Here's G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And here's what he says about Evan Mobley.
Be unicornish. There was nothing about his offensive game that's unicornish.
We didn't make him. The Cavs made him.
The Cavs
The Cavs came out on draft night.
When Jason Lloyd says under no circumstances that Mobley can be traded, for what? If I'm looking at Chet Holmgren, if I'm looking at Wemby, if I'm looking at Ben Carroll, if I'm looking at all these others, I could even say Jalen Suggs. I can look at all of these different guys that came in the league after you. You don't have a go-to post move. When they throw you the ball on the post, you can't do a simple jump, a drop step. Your jump hook is not there. You miss layups and chippies. Like, you good defensively. I'll give you that. But no unicorn is a one-trick pony, a defensive player that's a rotational guy that can help block shots. That's good, but not great. You take that and you put that together with the fact you overvalued Max Strus, that we've.
So I'm not the only one that thinks that, okay? G. Bush thinks that as well. Shout out to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Also got to give credit to Sports for CLE for the Jimmy Haslam footage. I don't want to take credit for anybody else's footage. So Cleveland for CLE, thank you for that. But I'm gonna propose something, okay? And I know people might think that I'm nuts, but I think the Cavaliers should explore trading Evan Mobley. And I'm telling y'all, I know everybody gonna think that I'm out of my mind, but I need people to understand he's been in the league now for a few years, and everybody is looking for this monumental leap from Evan Mobley. And I don't see it, y'all. And I don't see it coming at all. Evan Mobley, when you take away the defensive prowess that he has, Evan Mobley is so limited offensively, it's not even funny. It really isn't. It's not even funny that he is that. Now, I don't want to use the word inept because he's not inept, but not up to speed when it comes to his offensive game. Like G. Bush said, he don't have a bag on the post. He has no post moves whatsoever. I watch smaller people guard him at 7 feet tall. He runs out to the three-point line so much. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. He's a three-point shooter. He's not a three-point maker. And when I say that, then I use a comparison. When you look at Sam Merrill is somebody you're going to come out and guard, or Sam Merrill's going to light you up. Tyrese Proctor, the rookie on the bench from Duke, he's going to light you up if you leave him open. Jalen Tyson, if you leave him open, he's going to light you up. Evan Mobley, I've seen centers and bigs not come out to him until he hits one. And I guarantee you that's the scouting report on him is don't come out to him unless he hits his first shot. If he hits his first shot, you got to come guard him. Okay? And the reason I say it could be a possibility of trading Evan Mobley is because you still have a window of winning. But somebody has to help Evan Mobley develop his game. He does not have the mentality of a Kevin Garnett. He doesn't have the mentality of a Giannis Antetokounmpo. He does not have the mentality of a Paolo Banchero. He does not have that mentality of Tim Duncan. He doesn't have that mentality. And what I mean by that mentality as a big to become a stone cold killer. He doesn't. He doesn't even have Donovan Mitchell's mentality. Donovan Mitchell is a killer. Darius Garland, even though he can't defend, he's a killer offensively. All right. And so I am entertaining. And would you entertain if you got the right package of trading Evan Mobley? And for me, I would explore it. Okay? Because they're under these salary cap restrictions because of all these max deals. Okay? Jared Allen is they re-signed him. Darius Garland is on a max deal. Of course, Donovan Mitchell is on a max deal. Evan Mobley is on a max deal. You got 3 guys, but yet and still, you're not even in the top 5 in the Eastern Conference. And I've talked about that before. I think Kenny Atkinson doesn't care about winning the East. He doesn't. I really feel like he does not care about winning the Eastern Conference. I think his mindset is, get me to the playoffs. You get me to the playoffs, and with this team healthy, he feels like he can do something with this team. It's the same concept of when LeBron James didn't care about winning the East. He didn't care. All he wanted to do was get to the playoffs. Now, if he won the Eastern Conference, great. But all he wanted to do was get to the playoffs. And he knew once he got to the playoffs, it was Katie by the door. And I think that's the way Kenny Atkinson is thinking right now. Okay? So I mean, it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched at all to even think about possibly trading Evan Mobley. Because there will be suitors. He's the reigning defensive player of the year. He's, I think, 25 years old. He's still young. So my thing is, the Cavs would get so many assets, and once again, Kobe Altman can build this franchise into a consistent winner, because you got these young Thundercats on the bench. Okay, your Luke Travers, your Naquan Tomlins, your Jalen Tysons, your Craig Porter Jr. You got these young dudes on the bench, and you can use them, and they're players. So, what do you do? Do you make a trade? That's another. Should the Cavs make a trade? Can you trade Max Strus? Would you trade Max Strus? Okay. Would you entertain Evan Mobley or Jared Allen? Would you entertain that to make them continuously be viable in the Eastern Conference? To me, the East is still open. I am not a fan of the New York Knicks. I am not a fan of the Orlando Magic. I'm not a fan. I'm not Philadelphia. I'm not enamored with all of those teams. I think the Eastern Conference is still open. And right now, the Oklahoma City going to have a tough time because that Houston Rockets team is coming. Okay, that San Antonio Spurs team with Wembanyama is coming. So it ain't no guarantee that OKC is going to come out of the West. And for all my Laker fans, I need y'all to sit down. Lakers will make the playoffs, but they ain't going nowhere. This is LeBron's last year in LA anyway. Okay. And then we got to hear all this garbage about, will LeBron go back to Cleveland for his last hurrah? We'll get into that when that happens. We ain't talking about that now. All right. Finally, for the Cavs, do you think Garland, Mobley, Allen, and Mitchell are all-stars? Do you think that these guys have done enough to be all-stars? Now, most of y'all going to come across and going to say no, and I agree. I think Donovan Mitchell is an all-star, because without Donovan Mitchell, this team will probably be in the cellar in terms of the Eastern Conference. Donovan Mitchell, on many different occasions, has to go supernova for them to win. And he's averaging now about 32, 33 points a game. So Donovan Mitchell is doing what Donovan Mitchell does. So out of all four of those, I'm calling Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland has been hurt. He's done nothing to me to even vote for him as an all-star. Neither has Jared Allen. He's done nothing for me to vote for him as an all-star. And Evan Mobley is behind all three of them. He's done absolutely nothing. And I know people are going to be like, why have you soured on Evan Mobley so much? I've soured on Evan Mobley because Evan Mobley has refused to get better. It has nothing to do with coaching. He is bent on doing what he does, and you can see it. He is not improved by any leaps or bounds. He still shoots a lower percentage from three-point land. He's not very efficient in terms of being on the box. Rebounding has gotten better, but most of the time he's averaging 4 to 5 rebounds. I think he's up to 8 rebounds now. You're a flipping 7-footer. 7 foot tall. I watched him go up against Wembanyama, and he's probably the only one that plays Victor Wembanyama very well. Otherwise, I'm not impressed by Evan Mobley at all. No, I understand he can block shots. And let me say this. Brad Daugherty, who's on the Cavs broadcast, has always talked about Evan Mobley developing a jump hook. Just listen to Brad Daugherty, and Brad Daugherty knows. I equate the Evan Mobley and Jared Allen kind of combo to Brad Daugherty and Larry Nance Sr. That's how I look at them two, because Brad Daugherty was the scorer. Larry Nance was the defender. Larry Nance could score. He had a nice jump shot. But Larry Nance would pin your stuff against the backboard real quick, and he put you in the basket. When I look at Evan Mobley, I see Larry Nance Sr. without a jumper. That's just how I see him. Because Larry Nance, like I said, from 12 to 15 could kill you. Evan Mobley from 12 to 15 you're not even going to recognize him. Okay. So I believe Donovan Mitchell should be an all-star. The other three should not. Okay. All right, guys. Last topic for today is my coach's rant. And I have, there's some people on the 3 the Hard Way Sports podcast. I made a statement, and I made a statement some months ago that I looked at Trae Young as a poor man's Seth Curry, and I mean, I caught some heat, which I didn't care. I didn't care. I always have reasons to back up what I'm saying. I don't just say stuff just to say it. I don't say stuff for clicks. I say stuff because that's how I feel. And so I wanted to talk about this Trae Young trade. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it on 3 the Hard Way, but I'm going to talk about it here on this show. Trae Young was traded to the Washington Wizards from the Atlanta Hawks for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. And my opinion on this is this. Trae Young is not trying to win. Trae Young is trying to get paid. That's all he thinks about. And that's all he's thinking about. He's trying to get paid. And he's not in the mindset of winning anymore. Okay? Trae Young doesn't make anybody better. You look at this Atlanta Hawks team, and he didn't make anybody on that Atlanta Hawks team better. Don't get me wrong. Trae Young is a premier scorer. In his career, he's averaging 25.2 points a game. This year is down because he's been injured, 19.3, 8 assists, 48% from the field. But I don't look at the numbers like that. When I look at a player, I'm looking to see if he makes his team better. And Trae Young does not make any team better. Do you think by him going to Washington that the Philadelphia 76ers are sitting there like, oh, Trae Young's in Washington, we need to watch out? Absolutely not. No one cares. No one cares. Do you think Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and those guys are like, well, Trae Young's there. He's in Washington. We need to come with our A game. No, Trae Young doesn't make anybody better. Nobody. And here's another thing. First of all, the Washington Wizards gave up French fries and hamburgers for Trae Young. Probably some picks, but CJ McCollum is on his last leg, and Corey Kispert is a decent young shooter, but he's not going to turn the team around. Okay? They're not gonna make Atlanta any better. Okay? And Atlanta's a good team. Don't get me wrong, they got some young pieces. They're a really good team. But for them to get rid of Trae Young as quickly as they did, that speaks volumes about Trae Young. He is not a winner. He is not making anybody better. So for those that love Trae Young, I'm telling you right now, keep loving him, because all he cares about right now is making money. And like I said, here's the killing part. The killing part is Washington has not offered him a contract extension. Most of the time when you trade for a top tier player like that, you offer them a contract extension. Washington ain't offering him nothing. Why? Because they know he don't want to be there. Even though he handpicked going through his agent, handpicked going to Washington. Who would want to go to Washington? Why? Because he believes he's going to get paid, and he believes Washington is desperate enough that they will pay him because they want a winner. Okay? You know how many players came through Washington that got up out of Washington real quick? Last one was Russell Westbrook. People go to Washington, careers die in Washington. So for those that believe Trae Young is going to turn around Washington, I got a bridge in Brooklyn that I could sell you for $5 because that's how much it's going to be worth. Trae Young, when Trae Young is not on the floor, Atlanta is 46-48. Almost 50%. Now, to his credit, he's taken them to 3 playoffs in 8 years. 3 playoff games in 8 years. When he's doing the ice tray stuff. Okay? But I'm just not a fan of Trae Young. I'm not a fan of Trae Young. He can score with the best of them. He's still a subpar defender, and he's a smaller guard, which means you can put him in the post and do what you do. Same thing with Darius Garland. I'm not going to sit up there and say it's just Trae Young. Darius Garland's another one. Okay? But Trae Young got traded to Washington. Okay? I remember when the Clippers let me throw this up. Drew says, I remember when the Clippers were where careers died. Don't get me wrong, they ain't far behind. Okay? Because the Clippers, geez. Anyway. So I'll go a little bit further on 3 the hard way. I'm just saying I am not a fan of Trae Young. This trade is minimal at most. I'm not looking for Trae Young to turn the Washington Wizards around. I'm not looking for C.J. McCullough or Corey Kispert to take the Atlanta Hawks over the top. I think this is just a cheeseburger trade. I think Trae Young is all about money. He's not about winning. Somebody prove me wrong. I just don't. I don't see Trae Young doing anything in the NBA but being a decent guard and making a little money. Do I see Trae Young winning a championship in the next year or two? No. I don't even see him in Washington after this year. I don't. And for all y'all that think that his choices are going to be so vast because he's Trae Young, it's not. Because there ain't too many teams out here that want an undersized guard that shoot threes. Now, don't get me wrong, he led the league 1 year. I believe he led the league 1 year in assists. But no, not a fan of Trae Young. Won't be a fan of Trae Young. Can't be a fan of Trae Young. I think Trae Young is I won't say average, but he's not. He's like, if I'm coaching the team, I'm not gonna sit up here and say, we gotta throw all our resources into Trae Young. Even though Trae Young is a good scorer, because for me, you beat Trae Young by putting him on the post, putting him in pick and roll situations where he's got to switch because he's too small. So, all right, guys, that is my time. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for coming on here to the Locker Room. Like I said, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe to the Locker Room. All right. And then when you're done with that, go ahead and subscribe to 3 the Hard Way, y'all. It is my time. I am out of here. Please enjoy the rest of y'all Saturday. Let me give y'all a Cavalier update here real quick while I got the time. I know it was 33-33 in the second quarter. And so let's get an update. Now, did I do that? It is 60-59. The Cavs are down by 1. All right. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Please enjoy again the rest of your Saturday. And always remember, love on somebody. Tell somebody that you love them. Don't always assume that they know. I'll see y'all next week.